Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to my review of a little bit of budget Bauhaus. Believe me, there isn't all that much of it around. I've checked. By Bauhaus, I am of course referring to the German arts and craft movement that was prevalent in the 1920s that combined stunning clean aesthetics with functionality. Bauhaus movement extended to architecture, to interior design, to furniture, and of course to clocks at the time. Since then it has been incorporated into a variety of modern wristwatches. When I think Bauhaus watches, I think primarily of the Nomos Tangente and the Stova Antea, two great looking watches by two German brands. Unfortunately, the prices of those two range somewhere between $1,250 and $1,750 for the Nomos. I've got a little bit of Bauhaus today that comes in less than 10% of that by Sea-Gull of all brands. Chinese Bauhaus therefore. Now you saw the pop-up, I'm sure. This watch was sent to me by the Sea-Gull official store on AliExpress. They actually sent me it last year. I've included it before on the channel in the top 10 11 video from last November. I will therefore leave a link to their store in the description of the video. Current retail on these is about $125, but there is always a voucher, is there not? Do bear in mind that you don't have to buy this Sea-Gull from AliExpress. They are available from a wide variety of outlets. Mark from Long Island Watches stocks this one, for example. So I'm going to run through the full review of this watch then and tell you why I think it is worthy of your attention. If you're not a fan of this one, I will include another couple of budget Bauhaus alternatives at the end. Let's flip the camera and get on with it. Alright, while I'm getting into the packaging, I should point out that there are in fact 3 different versions of this watch. I went for the one that's most like the Nomos Tangente. It has got numerals on the evens. There is however one that just has the 12. The rest are just batons, and a further option, a third option, which has a prominent 12, 3 and 9, but not at 6 because there is a small second down there. All of them are the same price, or roughly the same price anyway. I should also point out that the packaging is half decent. It is a Sea-Gull after all. That means it's official, unlike the Sea-Gull 1963s, which are anything but official. It also comes with 2 straps, the leather one which I've been mostly wearing it on, which is actually alright, and a Sea-Gull branded mesh. Not bad to be given a choice at the price they're charging. I don't imagine this is going to be a particularly long review today because it is a rather simple watch, but that is the point of Bauhaus, isn't it? Simple yet functional. So 39mm in diameter. I guess the key dimension with this one though is the thickness or lack thereof. 8.6mm thick, one of the slimmest mechanical watches that I have ever reviewed on the channel. 45mm lug to lug as well, 20mm lug width, and on this supplied leather strap it weighs in at 47 grams. On the mesh you are looking at about 80 grams. High polished 3-piece case. Vintage style lugs, nice and slim there. We've got a press-on case back, 30 meters of water resistance, and a push-pull crown. It is signed with the S for Sea-Gull. I think the best part of this watch is the sapphire crystal. I'm not sure that I would have bothered reviewing it if it only had mineral crystal at this price. That is a lovely piece of double dome sapphire. Not sure if there's any anti-reflective undercoating, but because it just has that touch of curve to it, it doesn't really need it. Somewhat surprisingly, the leather strap is actually alright. Faux croc, but genuine leather. Reasonable stitching, and it's fairly soft and compliant. I've had no problem getting this one to flex to my wrist. Hardware is branded with Sea-Gull, again high polish to match the case. And the mesh is definitely a welcome addition, etched with the Sea-Gull brand name there as well. I guess you'll be using the mesh as a stylistic aesthetic choice really, rather than with any notions of going swimming with that one. Push-pull crown, 30 meters, don't bother. So the movement in the back of this is oddly enough a Sea-Gull in-house caliber. It's an ST17, but it is a rotorless version of the ST17, so it is mechanical. You manually wind it, it does not wind itself. That's why they were able to make this one 8.6mm slim. 17 joule, non-hacking, so again it manually winds but it does not hack. Roughly 35-hour power reserve. Now here's a photo, or a couple of photos I should say, of the movement. This one running at plus 17 seconds per day. There is an adjustment lever if you could be bothered. You could take the case back off and adjust it yourself. As it is, apart from that, it's running a little fast but not bad. Healthy amplitude, no beat error, 21,600 vibrations per hour with this one. But let's get the watch outside and have a look at the dial and hands under macro. And I'm going to start with a bit of me moving the watch around, specifically to show you the hands. Now the hands are quite dark, but when they get enough light on them, you can see that they are in fact blue hands. Regular macro lens, you can barely tell that they look black, but I assure you they are blue. They just need a lot of light for that to pop. It's a really nice effect when it does pop though. The rest of the dial I would describe as silver-ish. It's not really champagne, not dark enough I would say for champagne. So a kind of silver dial rather than a kind of crisp parchment white or anything. All just printed on. Distinctive Arabics. As discussed, I specifically chose this one with the Arabics at the evens. There are prominent batons everywhere else. Beyond that, a minute track, again, single batons at the 5s, double baton at the 12, the 3, the 6 and the 9. Just the brand name Sea-Gull printed above the pinion, but you notice they have put China made either side of those double batons down there at 6 o'clock. I would like to see this more often, frankly. We know that the world is made in China and we know that Sea-Gulls are made in China. I think it's quite nice the fact that they recognise it and stick it on the dial. The hands themselves are very slim and very simple. You can see a small second sub-register there, which is slightly recessed into the dial and has some nice concentric circle work. That's pretty much it. A really clean, simple and kind of timeless, classy look from this one. Definitely a watch that would be suitable for the office, definitely a watch that would be suitable for kind of more dressy occasions, if that's your bag. Looks good on wrist. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference and I think it's just about the perfect size on me. Look at how slim that is. Now, one thing about the strap that I appreciate, it tapers from 20 all the way down to 15.5. So we've definitely got that kind of vintage vibe happening and that is reflected in the strap as well. Looks a little more champagne here, but yeah, most of the time it looks pretty much silver and you can barely see those blue hands. They kind of look black from most angles. That's it on the mesh. Reasonable quality and branded, certainly decent enough for a bonus. Bear in mind, you're not going to get much else on here though. Even the leather strap comes with curved spring bars. You won't get a NATO under there, that is certain. That's the overhead shot. Lovely sapphire it may be, but no anti-reflective and it's beginning to struggle from certain angles. Very slim handset as well, but the colours work in its favour in terms of legibility. And outside natural light we're playing, now you see it, now you don't with those blue hands again, but that is a lovely piece of sapphire. I think just about perfect the way it integrates with that rather slim bezel, just enough curve to take the edge off the light reflection anyway. And on wrist, so nice and slim this one. Less than 45 grams, you barely know it's there. And as noted, a surprisingly decent leather strap in the box, not something you can always say with budget Chinese watches. And the pocket shot to finish, nicely proportioned, especially with that taper on the leather. Looks good on me, but I reckon this one you could go down to about a 6.25 inch wrist, no problem at all. Not sure how it would look on 8-inch plus though. Moans and niggles though, well personally I would have preferred if the hands had been a bit more vibrant blue all of the time rather than having to specifically catch the light to see that. I think that would have been a nicer effect overall with this one. And it does have a high polished case back. High polished case backs look good for the first 10 minutes and then thereafter they look like this. They look like a bloody mess and it's only gonna go in one direction. Just as well that this is on the back of the watch and not the front, I guess. And with the numeral layout that I've chosen, it does look rather a lot like the Nomos Tangente, doesn't it? It's not identical, they're not the same set of numerals and they're kind of double batons here and there, but yeah, it does look pretty similar. But then again, the Stova Antea looks rather a lot like the Nomos Tangente as well. So what's going on? Can we say that one watch is the homage of another watch, or can we just say that they're all exhibiting that Bauhaus style? Well, what about alternatives then? If you don't fancy the Sea-Gull, I did say there weren't many, but I did say there were a couple at a similar price point to this watch. Well, how's about an Orient Bambino? I know it's not quite the same and it doesn't have the numerals, but it has kind of that kind of minimalist Bauhaus early 20th century thing happening, doesn't it? Particularly in this version 2. This is my favourite of the Bambinos. I think the V2, they nailed the styling. V4s, they got a bit too big and a bit too complicated, but some of these V2s are lovely. This one available in either silver or black, depending on your preference. And don't forget about Braun, or more correctly, Brown. German design, fabulous design, but you're not getting the same specs. It's going to be quartz and it's going to have mineral crystal. But you should be able to find these all day long for less than $100. And of course, there is always Daniel Wellington. Yeah, okay, I'm only kidding. If you know someone who wears a Daniel Wellington, play them this video. Try and suggest to them that the Sea-Gull, or indeed the Bambino or the Brown, are all much, much better choices and much better ways to spend their money than on one of those quartz pieces of junk. If you like that clean Bauhaus look, but you can't quite stretch to a Nomos or even a Stova, you could do a lot worse than one of these Sea-Gulls. It's a nicely made little watch, and the piece of sapphire really makes the difference with this one, I think. So there you have it, super clean, super sharp from Sea-Gull today. That sapphire crystal really makes it. If you don't fancy this one, why not check out the two watches I referred to, or at least the two brands I referred to, Orient Bambino and that big funny looking Braun thing that I bought and then sold a couple of years ago. Thanks for watching, see you again soon.